We are going to be discussing the Maimarim of Yehuda HaMelech Laster, which is on the bottom of Tzadik Gimel Amud Dalet, and Vatesef Esther, which is at the bottom of Tzadik Dalet Amud Gimel. So the Maimar of Yehuda HaMelech Laster, Sharbitt HaZahav, discusses the two times in the Megillah that it mentions the king's scepter and Esther taking it from the king. The first time it says that she gets to hold on to the tip of the scepter, and the second time it sounds like she is given the whole scepter. And so the Alter Rebbe talks about this service for us. He says that each of us is compared to Esther when we are in a state of gullus, when we are in a state of God being concealed, godliness being concealed, and the major identifying factor for us is that we have trouble producing genuine love for God, and we struggle in that sense. So the Esther journey, so to speak, is the process of getting out of that state. Now, the Alter Rebbe is going to discuss the two Maimari Chazal that are most of the Maimar. The first one is the Maimar Chazal that says that every Yom Tov is going to go away except for Purim. When Mashiach comes, and the second Maimar Chazal is one that says that halachas will not disappear when Mashiach comes. So the Alter Rebbe first gives a beautiful introduction as to what happens on a Yom Tov, and what he essentially says is that we experience a divine revelation that allows us to get out of our spiritual desert and brings us through a long process of spiritual experiences that elevates us and allows us to reject the perceived reality of materialism. But in the framing of Purim, the Alter Rebbe says that is just the first stage of holding onto the tip of the scepter, because like the scepter, we are only experiencing a revelation of God in which the materialism of our world seems to be a contradiction, and godliness overwhelms that, as opposed to the ultimate relationship with God, which is one in which we can appreciate that materialism has a place, and that materialism is in fact the purpose of creation, as dir b'tachtonim, and that's something that is highlighted through Purim, as we see that Purim, the linchpin of the whole story, was Achashverosh and his both turning against the Jews in the darkness component and the Gullus component, and helping the Jews in the Geula component at the end of the story. Now, the bringing us back to the halachas that don't go away when Mashiach comes, halachas are the kind of essential form of this, and that when it comes to halacha, the better your understanding of the physical material reality, the better you will be at navigating halacha. And our challenge is simply to be able to learn Torah and engage in Torah without having that conflict of feeling like the materialism of Torah, it cannot coexist with godliness. And the Alter Rebbe's advice to us is to make a small whole, to do a small degree of tshuva, and that the Eibusher is going to respond and help us out. And that Maimer ends off that this then is the second time that Esther comes and actually gets the scepter. And when she gets the scepter the second time, she is given complete control. She's given the house of Haman. She's given full ishapcha and a full appreciation of the dual reality of materialism and godliness, and how they work together in the same world. Now, the second Maimer is Vatesef Esther, and that's discussing the Esther falling down in front of the king and pleading for the Jews. And so the Alter Rebbe questions how, if the whole Megillah is the story of the neshama and the Eibusher, what is the idea of falling down in front of God? And what he explains is that this is the concept of davening to the Eibusher, and he says that every Jew has a essential desire to be batal to God, to put ourselves aside for God's will. Unfortunately, though, we are all in an Esther state. We are trapped in this darkness that makes it hard for us to get out. And the Alter Rebbe says that there's 4 stages that a Jew can be in. There's b'yom hazeh, b'yom hahu, and b'layla hazeh, and b'layla hahu. And each of these indicate a further and further distance from divine revelation. And so the ideal state would be that of Zahayim, of Yom Hazeh, in which we are fully aware of God in our everyday life and we see God everywhere. Unfortunately, for most of us, we are stuck in the Lila stage, where we have a lot of trouble identifying God in our lives, and the struggle is to emerge from that. And the Alter Rebbe gives a few tools by which we can get out. The first one is a Zohar that talks about the idea of practical halacha and practical learning of Torah that will get us out of that, and also calling out to God in a genuine way, which will cause God to take us out. And ultimately, the Alter Rebbe ends off that we will then experience that same Purim miracle in our own lives.